Picture the way a toddler checks over their shoulder every few seconds while exploring a playground, running back for a quick hug against a leg, then dashing off again without a word. That small back and forth is not clinginess, and it is not an accident. It is a rehearsal. Researchers who study early attachment have found that the way a caregiver responds to that back and forth thousands of times in the first years of life quietly writes the blueprint a person will later use to love as an adult. This is the idea behind attachment styles, a framework developmental psychologists have used for decades to explain why some adults lean into closeness with ease, while others pull away the moment things get serious, panic at silence, or feel both pulled toward love and terrified of it at the same time. It is not about assigning blame to any parent. Almost no caregiver gets this perfect, and almost every child adapts in some way to whatever they were given. What makes this framework so useful is that it does not require a perfect childhood memory to apply. Most adults cannot recall specific moments from age 2 or 3, and that's fine, because attachment doesn't live in memory the way a story does. It lives in the body, in how quickly the heart rate settles after conflict, in what a person's hands do the moment a partner leans in for a hug. In this video, we will walk through 5 attachment patterns that tend to take shape in early childhood, how each one tends to echo forward into adult romantic relationships, the misconception commonly attached to it, and one concrete, doable step you can take this week, whether you are raising a young child or making sense of your own patterns in love right now. 1. The secure foundation. When a child's needs for comfort, food, and attention are met consistently, even if imperfectly, they absorb something simple but profound. Distress is temporary, and help tends to arrive. That predictability slowly becomes an internal sense of safety the child carries into every new environment, every new friendship, later every new relationship. Neurologically, the body's stress response learns to settle quickly because it has repeated, reliable evidence that settling is safe to do. In adulthood, this often becomes the person who can name a need out loud without spiraling into shame, who can tolerate a partner's bad mood without silently deciding the relationship is over. However, secure does not mean immune to insecurity forever. Major loss, a difficult past relationship, or prolonged stress can temporarily shake even a well-built foundation. If you are a caregiver, the action step is not perfection, which was never the actual ingredient, it is repair. When you miss a cue or lose your patience, coming back afterward with warmth and acknowledgement teaches the child almost the same lesson as never missing at all. 2. The anxious pattern. This tends to develop when caregiving is loving but inconsistent, warm and attentive one day, distracted, stressed, or emotionally unavailable the next, without any clear pattern the child can predict. Because comfort arrives unpredictably, the child's nervous system adapts by staying highly alert to the caregiver's mood, tone, and location at nearly all times. That hypervigilance is genuinely protective in childhood. It keeps a fragile connection from slipping away unnoticed. But carried into adulthood, that same alertness can look like needing frequent reassurance from a partner, reading a delayed text as evidence of rejection, or feeling a sudden flood of anxiety the moment a partner goes quiet or distracted. The catch is that this pattern often gets mislabeled by others and by the person themselves as being too much or too needy, when really it is a nervous system faithfully doing the job it was trained to do in childhood. If this sounds like you, the action step is practicing a short pause before reacting to a partner's silence, giving yourself even 60 seconds to ask whether the threat in front of you is real or remembered.
3. The avoidant pattern. This often takes shape when a child's early bids for comfort, reaching arms, tears, requests for closeness, were met with discouragement, mild dismissal, or a subtle discomfort with neediness. Sometimes from caregivers who were not unkind at all, simply uneasy with big emotion themselves. Over time, the child absorbs a quieter, harder lesson. Needing other people tends to lead to disappointment, so it feels safer to rely on yourself first. That fierce self sufficiency can look admirable from the outside, even enviable. What's tricky is that inside a close relationship, it often surfaces as real discomfort with a partner's emotional needs, a tendency to pull back at the exact moment things get intimate, and a genuine, if surprising, difficulty noticing one's own need for closeness until it has already quietly disappeared. There is often a real gap here between what the body feels and what the person can report. Many avoidantly attached adults score low on outward anxiety in a relationship, while their heart rate and stress hormones tell a very different story underneath. The action step here is small and specific. When the urge to withdraw shows up during conflict, try naming it out loud to a partner. Even a simple, "I need a few minutes," instead of disappearing without any explanation at all.
4. The disorganized pattern. Some researchers believe this develops when the very same person who is meant to be a source of comfort is also, at unpredictable times, a source of fear through frightening reactions, chronic instability, or an environment where a child could never quite tell what version of a caregiver was coming home. The child faces something close to an impossible instinct: run toward the caregiver for safety or run away from the caregiver because they are also, at times, the danger itself. That contradiction rarely resolves cleanly on its own. In adult relationships, it can surface as intense closeness, quickly followed by sudden distance, a persistent difficulty trusting even a genuinely safe and steady partner, or the strange, exhausting experience of being drawn toward intimacy and afraid of it in the very same moment. However, this is also the pattern most responsive to what researchers sometimes call earned security, meaning it can shift meaningfully through consistent, safe relationships later in life, including close friendships, therapy, or a patient and steady partner. The action step is deliberately seeking out relationships, professional or personal, that stay predictable over time, since predictability itself tends to be the corrective experience this pattern is missing.
5. The pattern that forms around independence pushed too early. This can develop in children who were praised mainly for being easy, capable, or low maintenance, and quietly discouraged, directly or indirectly, from expressing ordinary needs. The mechanism is subtle. The child learns that their value comes from not being a burden, so they compress their own needs down to almost nothing. In adulthood, this can look like real difficulty asking for help, even from a loving partner, discomfort receiving care, or a persistent, uneasy feeling of guilt when a partner wants to take care of them. However, the problem is that this often gets mistaken for simple maturity or low maintenance ease, rather than recognized as an old survival strategy. The action step is practicing one small, specific ask each week, letting a partner do something for you on purpose, and noticing the discomfort without acting on the urge to take it back.
None of this is a life sentence, and none of it is fixed. Attachment patterns are not permanent personality traits. They are strategies a much younger version of you built, cleverly and quietly, to survive the relationships available at the time. Just like that toddler on the playground eventually grows secure enough to wander farther before glancing back, adults can build the same security later in life through relationships, self awareness, and sometimes professional support that offer what was missing the first time around. Awareness alone will not rewrite a pattern overnight, but it is the first real step, because a strategy you can name is a strategy you can eventually choose to set down. The toddler on the playground did not need a perfect parent to grow secure. They needed a good enough one, present often enough,
and willing to come back after the moments they missed. If you recognized yourself in one of these patterns today, you are not broken, and you are certainly not alone in it. Which one felt the most familiar as you were watching? And where do you notice it showing up in how you love right now? Don't forget to subscribe, share this video, and let me know your thoughts below.